Good afternoon, evening, morning, whenever you're watching this. If you're watching with me right now on the Ides of March, on March 15th, welcome, welcome. Deborah Roth from Spirited Living back with another addition to our exploration of our inner goddess teams. And I will say right off the bat, oh, I don't have any water nearby. I may mute you for a minute because I have this weird cough that just doesn't seem to be going away. Hopefully I won't be coughing at you. So we, almost every week, we meet here because mostly because I'm just having a great time exploring so many goddesses that, and I always say when I do my women's circles, when we invoke the divine feminine, we talk about the goddess of 10,000 names. And so I keep thinking, there's no way there's no way I'm going to run out of goddesses to research and find out about. And I'm trying valiantly to go way beyond Greek and Roman goddesses. And I think I'm doing that, but I would definitely love any of you watching this to let me know if there's a particular goddess that you would like to highlight. And I will do my best to research and find out about her. And then the whole notion of the divine feminine, somewhere on this, on the YouTube version, I always upload my live videos to YouTube. There'll be a little thing to push to just find out more about what the qualities are, what I mean when I talk about the divine feminine. So I won't go into that here. And I think what I will say is that understanding these myths, understanding these divinely feminine qualities that are embodied by these goddesses from around the world, I think is really the reason I do it is because I feel like embracing and reclaiming these qualities of compassion, of strength and gentle power are really what's going to save our planet on every level. So the one that we are playing with today, I've certainly heard of her. I've been mispronouncing her name. That's happened several times as I've gone deeper into learning about these goddesses. Cybele, and that seems to be, it's either spelled with a C or a K. I've gone with the C spelling, which seems to be, as so many of these goddesses, they really evoked, they had several evolutions. She originally came from Anatolia, and then when the Greeks colonized Asia Minor, they brought her to Greece. And even then, when she was in Anatolia, looking at my notes, she was a form of the Earth Mother, of the Great Mother. And when she was associated with mountains, with hawks, with lions, and then she was brought to Greece around 6 BCE. And then, as we've talked about here, the goddesses are the most recent embodiments of the goddess are really from the conquerors. And so the Romans also took her on and did there were all kinds of cults or a major cult around worship of Cybele in Rome as well. So there she was known as Magna Mater, which is Big Mother. And in fact, her representations were typically of a heavy woman. And I've got this is one of her, one of the statues in her honor. And she's not shown as this svelte maiden-like thing. She was a mother. She represents fertility and among other things. I'll talk about that in a minute. And most of the fertility goddesses in any culture were large, full-bodied women. It's thought that one of her origins was from this classic mother goddess from Çatalhöyük, which had some of the earliest goddess figures shown. And you can see she is definitely full-bodied, along with Venus Willendorf, along with the goddess of Loselle in France. So her mythology, as much as she is very much about fertility in the earth, her mythology really informs a lot of her festivals and a lot of the ways that we still think about honoring her today. So she, in addition to being the goddess of nature and fertility, she presided over mountains and fortresses. So many of the depictions of her actually have a crown, have her wearing a crown that's in the form of a city wall. And because remember, she's did I say she was caverns? So ways to invoke her can be to sit on a mountaintop, to create a little cave for yourself in your own environment. So her basic themes, obviously, as a fertility goddess, were strength and health. Now, some of her other ones come back to her major myth, and that is with Attis, Attis. And she found him among the reeds, supposedly, the legend goes, around March 15th. She raised him as her son. He became her lover, which is common with many of these goddesses. And, excuse me. And then he went mad and he castrated himself and then eventually killed himself. And in her grief, Cybele beseeched Jupiter, who was the king of the gods in the Roman religion, to resurrect him, which he did. He brought him back. He brought Attis back as a pine tree so that he would always be connected. He'd always be hanging on to Cybele in her form of the earth with his roots. So it's really kind of a lovely, he's embracing her with his roots. Now that Cybele Attis cult that made its way from Greece to Rome was a very ecstatic, lots of dancing, wild dancing and frenzy, and apparently at some point got kind of bloody, and they would sacrifice a bull and then let the blood fall on the initiates. In addition to which, because in recognition and honoring of Attis and how he died, all of her priests were castrated, and so her initiates would castrate themselves. That also today, anyone who worships or who honors her, they're not castrating themselves, but she's very much brought in transgender worship. Because she did honor all of her priests were eunuchs and had this non-binary connection. And so when I was reading about her at a bunch of different places, found that she's also one that's particularly revered in that community. What else do I want to tell you about? I think I've hit most of it. Oh, so this is kind of fun. Probably her major festival was called the Hilaria, like hilarious. And so that's why she's often associated with joy and happiness, and you invoke her when you want to lift up your spirits. And that was a multi-day, as many of these ancient festivals were, a multi-day festival that first started in sorrow, acknowledging Attis's self-mutilation and then his death. And then with his resurrection, this is another one of those that really mirrors the resurrection myths that happen this time of year all over the world. Of course, we know about it in the Christian religion with the resurrection of Jesus. But this, Demeter and Persephone, when Persephone returns from the underworld, and this Cybele and Attis is another resurrection story. And so the reason she's connected with joy and celebration, and why you call on her when you want to dispel depression and anxiety, is because this ultimately is this joyous resurrection celebration. Let's see. So basically, you can invoke her. I always like to talk about that. You can invoke her with your laughter. As one of my favorite resources, Patricia Telesco. She has this wonderful book. Do I have it right here? I do, in fact. Has this wonderful book called 365 Goddesses. And she talks about really tapping into the joyous side of what Cybele symbolizes. As she says, to rent a good comedy flick, to go out to a comedy club, or do something that really lifts your spirits. So think about that. Where in your life, when in your life do you need to be picked up like that? In this springtime, in this resurrection time that we're, hello, Anna, that we're in the midst of right now in the springtime, there's many ways. And while you may be watching this today, others I know from looking at my YouTube channel are watching this and any other time. So, throughout the year. So yes, this is the springtime of resurrection and rebirth. But you can call on Cybele just with any of the goddesses that we highlight here, any time of year when you need to be uplifted, when you want to, go dance on a mountaintop, or in a cave, someplace to really invoke her. So I'd love to hear. I know that there are present day people that still really revere her, and I'd love to hear from you and what your practices are. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Come back here. I'm not sure when I'm doing this next week. Probably Wednesday. That's when I try to do it. Sometimes my schedule changes. And take some time to really think about how you want to invoke her in this joyous springtime as we're watching everything bloom around us. Speaking of which, if you are even if you're not in the New York area, we are doing a spring equinox celebration at my Unitarian church that I'm leading a really lovely meditation in on Monday, March 20th, on the spring equinox. You can go to fourthu.org and get information there about it. I'll try to remember to put that in my YouTube description as well. So enjoy the spring, and if you're watching this and it's not springtime, then that's okay. Just enjoy this energy of resurrection and rebirth. And I'm going to leave you. I've sung this several times. It is a Native American chant, but it's one of my favorite ones. I've done this a couple times over the last 2.5 years for Pachamama, on Indigenous Peoples Day. I feel like there was one other time that I sang it. Whenever there's an earth goddess that we're lifting up. And so this may be familiar to some of you. It goes like this. The earth is our mother, we must take care of her. The earth is our mother, we must take care of her. Hey yana ho yana hey yan yan. Hey yana ho yana hey yan yan. Her sacred ground we walk upon. With every breath we take, her sacred ground we walk upon. With every breath we take. Hey yana ho yana hey yan yan. Hey yana ho yana hey yan yan. Go forth and celebrate and laugh and find some people to dance with. Have a beautiful week. Have a beautiful entry into springtime if you're watching this before the spring equinox. And I will see you back here in another week or so. Namaste. Bye for now.